All right, folks, we're back. It's a chilly Wednesday night here in Ocala, Florida. We've got some warming up to do, and we got to talk about the schedule in 2024, which came out today. I don't see a whole lot of wins on it. We'll find out from the experts tonight. We've got a good panel. Starting off with Edgar Thompson, who will join us momentarily to talk about that and other things. Also, after Edgar, we'll have Chris Doering will join us during the mid segment, and then we have David Moulton at the end. Talk about how many wins can you see on the 2024 schedule for the Florida Gators, and is there any positive news coming out of Gainesville? If there is, Edgar will find it. Stay tuned. The Buddy Martin Show is now on the air.
Yes, I'm again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye!
You ready, champ? I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Evening and welcome to a Wednesday night edition of the Buddy Martin Show. We're heard 5 days or a week around here, including the Urban Meyer Show, Best Fridays in Football on Fridays. Big crowd last week. A lot of comments about what Urban said regarding how Florida fans shouldn't be patient. This is Florida. That's where we get a lot of play around. And also other news going on. It's really hard to report this day and time on college football as close to the vest as they are. I talk about it a lot. A lot of you fans don't like it when I say we have a right to know what's going on up there. But, you don't appreciate it till you don't have it. One of the hardest working reporters I've seen is Edgar Thompson. He is always digging, asking, finding out. He probably breaks more stories than any two people on the beat. It doesn't come easy. It comes with a price. It's difficult. Some people don't like you, whatever. That's how it is. I believe that a good reporter is your only access to what is going on in Gainesville because, let's be honest, a lot of hype out there. What's real, what's not, what matters, what doesn't. Well, that's what guys like Edgar Thompson tell us. So no further ado, before we go to our first break, we'll bring in the mighty Edgar Thompson of the Orlando Sentinel, who joins the program tonight. Again, good to have you, Edgar. How you doing?
Buddy, don't you know you're supposed to under-promise and then over-deliver? That was a nice intro. I appreciate it. There are a lot of hardworking guys and newsbreakers in the beat.
Well, no, that I disagree with that. Not a lot of them. There are several, and you're as good as there is. So let me get that straight right now. Okay, there's not a lot of them.
Well, that's nice of you to say. I mean, there's a lot going on, as you said, that we just don't really know or hear about or don't have access to get. But they hand delivered some news tonight, even though it was a bit of a doubt. But with the schedule, which I'm sure we're going to discuss.
We're going to talk about that for sure and see how many wins we can find on it, among other things. Edgar, I got in a little trouble this week because I made a statement on Brady. I always want to call him Brady, my buddy Brady Ackerman, on Shane's show when I said that, the public has a right to know what's going on, generally speaking, in Gainesville. And people shouted me down and said, no, we don't. And you shouldn't be probing up there. You should really leave Billy alone. He didn't have time to talk to you. Well, he doesn't talk to me, hasn't talked to me. I've never had a one-on-one with Billy. I think he might be the first coach at Florida in 60 years that I haven't, but that's okay. I get it. I'm not that important, and he's got things to do. But anyway, people shouted me down saying, no. You don't have a right to any of that stuff, buddy, and you leave them alone. Well, I'm sorry. I don't. I believe in the public trust. I believe in the public. It's a state university. and I think we have an obligation to tell the truth as best we can. The problem being we don't know a lot, we're not told anything, and so it's a difficult job for you guys. I don't cover the beat like you guys have to. So my hats off to you because very little stuff is getting out. I talked to a guy today, a well-known guy up there. Everybody would know his name in a heartbeat, and he told me, he says, Urban's right when he said it's enough about the process. Let's see some results. And so Billy's coming to it, and you've kind of been really. I heard you this morning on Shane's show, and you're kind to him, you're kind to them, and fair to them, and I think that's great. So I don't know. I want you to talk for a second about the obligation you have as a reporter to try to report the truth to the public, or do you think you have one?
I think there should be some accountability when the kind of money investments being made. You mentioned public university. That's part of it, I guess. People pay a lot of money, spend a lot of time, put a lot of energy to attend football games, and it's not a lot of them. So it requires a sacrifice. I think I said this on your show before. Every time I go to games, I'm amazed because the process has slowed down maybe a little with the digital tickets maybe, or maybe I'm just noticing more. But these lines are long. It's inconvenient. The parking, people have been pushed out farther and farther as the more moneyed people are getting closer to the stadium because they're paying for that right. And they come squeeze on these bleachers and often very high temperatures and close quarters and cheer their guts out for even Miami and certainly from Orlando, Tampa, Jacksonville, and elsewhere to support this program. So I think they deserve some knowledge of what's going on with what's the plan, what's the path out of this. Right now, it's a pretty tenuous path ahead and made even more challenging by tonight's release of the schedule next season. So yeah, I think there needs to be some accountability. I think they try to provide some, but I also think that it's maybe not top priority to them. I understand that. They need to build the roster, win football games, make the right hires, etc. NIL is certain added a whole nother layer to that as the transfer portal. So I'm not going to come down on them entirely. And what are they supposed to say really right now? There's not much to say until next Wednesday when the signing class comes in. However, yes, we believe we're the conduit to the fan base. The questions I ask aren't for Edgar Thompson. Mark Long doesn't ask questions for himself and the rest of the guys in the beat. It's not for them. It's for the fans, and it's for the readers and listeners. So I agree with you that we definitely like more information, and I feel like we should be entitled to some access beyond what we receive. I'll say a couple last things. We don't talk to any assistant coaches the whole season, coordinators included, and that's a change from the last regime. The last regime, I don't think allowed freshmen to speak. I'm not sure McElwain might not have either, but Muschamp did. I really don't understand that philosophy. Eugene Wilson not speaking, Trevor Etienne last year not speaking, and especially now with NIL, a lot of these young men in the freshman class earn a pretty nice penny and drive a pretty nice vehicle to be, and they're 18 years old. I mean, they should be able to get up there, and this is part of the deal, especially for the ones with professional aspirations. So I have my qualms, but they're going to fall on deaf ears, and they're going to do what they do.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to talk about the old days and talk about how great it was and how privileged some of us were. But
it was different.
Well, let me just say this as an example. Here's the difference. And I get it. I'm not saying this because it's Buddy Martin or because I got to do it or whatever. But when Spurrier was the head coach of Florida, not only did we talk to the assistant coaches, he allowed me to host a show with the assistant coaches. They came to me and asked me to host a show. Every week we had a different assistant coach on. It was great to get a chance to know them, and get a little about them. And so now we don't even get to talk to them. I'm not asking for everybody's personal soul. It's just very, you need a buy-in from the media and the public, whatever. How you get that is by having access and being able to understand who these people are to tell their story and explain. Enough of that stuff. I'll get off that because nobody really cares with us. Let me just say this.
Well, the game has changed in the social media age. The stakes have risen considerably, and the pressure's intensified. And the demands, too, as I stated with the NIL, which Billy walked right into a hornet's nest with that. It was all new. And I don't know that UF had the apparatus in place to handle it, as a lot of schools did not, let's be honest.
A lot of people walk in. Kelly walked into one LSU. He did pretty well at it. So that's not an excuse. Everybody had the same playing field there on that.
Well, no, it's true. I don't know that everyone viewed NIL as through the same lens.
Yeah, and I heard what you said.
Nobody knew what it was.
Yeah.
I'm not defending it. I'm just saying I can see their side of it.
Yeah.
Now,
I heard you this morning. You talked about it. Very, very generous of you.
Well, no, my side of it is coordinators, especially $1 million earners, should be speaking. Players that are being paid to play the game now should be speaking. And that's just part of the deal. And they have their view. I have mine. You have yours. We can't change it, and maybe it will. I'll tell you this, after Will Muschamp went 4-8, he changed his view of the media. I think Dan Mullen, when things got tougher, loosened up a little bit. We'll see. Maybe Billy realizes after being 11-14 in 2 seasons that there's different ways to do it, but he's got other problems right now to worry about than the media.
No doubt. Yeah. Okay, let's switch gears. We'll get on to Chris Doering will be joining us in a moment. We'll talk about the schedule more with him when we get on here. But the news tonight, apparently Miguel Mitchell is entering the transfer portal. Have you heard that?
I did see that.
Yeah. What do you think of it?
I thought that he struggled a lot this season, but he wasn't alone. I think they'd like to have him. He's a pretty fast athlete back there with some size.
Right.
It's not great. I mean, that's a position, where they're don't have great depth or experience. And then you hear the Filsami kid, the Texas recruit, the 5-star safety. Where that's heading, we don't know, but that might be is a potential commitment flip, and that would be a loss because that's a position that back into the defense was shaky, real shaky. More 40-yard passes completed against Florida than any team in the nation. Yeah.
So there are all kinds. And I hate to even put any credence in some of these rumors but we have nothing else. This one guy, Hoopshiz, wherever he is, said Coach O and Willie Corn were coming to UF. He was wrong about that. He says today that Filsami is expected to remain committed to Florida after recent rumors of him flipping to Texas. What's his basis? I don't have any idea if he's accurate or not accurate or whatever. I don't know. I have no information. Do you know about that?
It sounds contrary to that, but we'll see. Mm-hmm. Billy has a week to make it happen. I have a story that's running first thing tomorrow morning. It'll post on LJ McCrae.
Yeah, I want to hear about that.
Yeah, you said to bring some positive news. There's some.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and share some of that. Can you? Yeah. Without giving your story away. It'll be out tomorrow morning, but it's a good story. Okay.
He won a state title a week ago tomorrow. First one in 20 years at Mainland. He is the second or third rated defensive lineman in the country, third rated recruit in the state. Big get for Billy. Seems committed. But again, these commitments, until they're officially in the fold, nothing is official, right?
Right.
And he said he was a little blindsided by Sean Spencer's firing. He did say that Mike Peterson's his main recruiter, though, because he's an edge guy mainly. He's tight with Kelby Collins, TJ Searcy, Cam James. I think they have some promising young edge players, and that's going to be critical because the pass rush was underwhelming this year.
Dreadful.
And it makes it hard on the back end when you don't have much of a pass rush. So
that's why they only had 3 picks all year, right?
3 picks this year, 18 40-yard pass completions against. So you got to reverse that. And I mean, I don't think you can give up 3, but you got to have a lot more picks and 40-yard pass completions. So they struggled with a lot of things this year defensively. L.J. McCray is not coming to the rescue. He has some physical development to do, it looks like. But he's 6'6", 260, and a lot to build on. Tenacious, smart kid, really a pleasure to deal with. Spoke to his family some too. And I think he's a good piece to get in here. And it sounds like he's coming. So one thing he said I liked, I'll conclude on this, is he was at a rebuild at Mainland, 5-5 to 11-4 in the state playoffs to its state champion. And he has seen that path and he embraces that path. So he's like, hey, look, I want to be part of doing the same thing at Florida. And it's aspirational, but it's a good attitude to have coming in as an 18-year-old guy.
And a final thing, we've got Chris Story coming up next. You saw him play last week. You were not totally blown away, but you're impressed. Am I correct in what you said?
Well, I mean, they schemed away from him. I mean, who wouldn't? As he called it, very smart. I said, they seem to go away from him. He goes, yeah, pretty smart. He said, pretty smart. But, I mean, he impacted the game for sure, and they won on a last-second field goal. It was a great game. And what was fun is we were on the field, and field level, man, God, I'd love to watch all the games down there. You see so much more. You just pick up on things where you're sitting so far away in the press box you might miss. So
reminds me of
fun
days.
to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun to watch.
Yeah, I covered high school ball that way. All right, stand by. Chris Storing's next. I want to tell you about Titan MRI, one of our sponsors. Worth a short drive to Gainesville. No insurance, there's no problem. Same day scheduling available. You can pay cash or card. So start feeling better today, North Florida. Titan MRI is North Central Florida's premier independent MRI facility. Come see why hundreds of patients are visiting our Gainesville location from Ocala, Marion County, and the villages. That's TitanMRI.com. Here's another legend. I got 2 in one night. Look at this guy. Chris, what's up, my man? Chris Doering, how are you? Say hello to Edgar.
Hey, good to be with both you guys, man. What a nice surprise. Edgar's the man. Appreciate him always coming on my show, too.
How you doing, man?
Good. What's going on with y'all boys? We watching a little schedule release tonight?
Yeah, we're looking at that next. We're going to talk about it, and I've got it in front of me, and we can break it down if you'd like to know what you guys think about it. We're trying to find some positive news in Gainesville these days, you know. So, all right, let's take a look at it. Schedule came out today, and the word is that it's a tough one. We know that. It's a lot depends on where they are on the schedule, where they fall, who you got. The one good thing I guess is good is they have 2 open dates this year coming up. So, but I looked at that. I just gave it a quick glance. I didn't try to put a number next to it, but I don't see exactly. I don't see 7-8 wins on the schedule, guys. What's your first impression, Chris?
My first impression is this is the most difficult schedule in the history of the University of Florida football program. I think it's one of the most difficult programs or schedules that any team has played before. Certainly the most difficult in the country next year. You look at from the Georgia game on, those final 5 games of the season. I don't know how Florida's already had a difficult time navigating the month of November the last 2 years. You throw in that Georgia game, I don't see it being a very promising finish for the Gators.
All right, Edgar.
Yeah, the way the names are. Sorry to have so much name there, Chris, but too much. I'll just put my first name next time. Yeah, I mean it's backloaded for sure. 5 of those 5 opponents: Georgia November 2nd, at Texas on the 9th, LSU, Ole Miss, at Florida State on the 30th, is 5 teams that are in the current top 13 in the college football playoff rankings. So it is tough. This year they ended on a 5-game skid. I'm not saying that's going to be a 5-game skid, but it is going to be hard to have a winning record with those 5 teams. You don't know what the team is yet, though. To start making predictions, we don't even know what's what. We don't know who they're getting in the portal, who else they're going to lose. We know they lost Trevor Etienne, which I thought was pretty crushing. I I don't know who's going to develop. A lot of guys are going to have to make those year 2 jumps. I mean, a guy like Jordan Castell, we were talking about safety. Eugene Wilson needs to become a star. He could be. He has the tools. He needs to be a huge impact player offensively, a piece that teams just can't defend or gear up toward and free up other guys. You're going to need to see that defensive front emerge. Cam Jackson take another step. All those edge guys I talked about before Chris got on here, those young guys make a step. These young linebackers, Miles Graham, Childs, maybe Hayes, one of those guys, if not a couple, pop and join Shamar James and really give them some linebacking they haven't had. And the cornerbacks, Jakeem Jackson's a kid. I mean, does he make a jump? They need jumps from a lot of guys. And number one thing they need, I believe, guys, is an offensive line. I mean, a huge upgrade up front. Without that, nothing's going to work because we saw what the struggles were without one. Mertz took a beating. The run game wasn't as successful. I think it's a reason Trevor Etienne hit the portal.
Well, go call Coach Prime. He seemed to do okay. He just had the number 1 portal class in the country, and most of them offensive linemen. So he seems to know how to get them. Even with 2 offensive line coaches, doesn't seem like it would be very attractive for some recruits. Going back to what Chris said, it's always been like a November to remember. This is a November you don't want to remember. And you look at the schedule after the second bye. We got Georgia, Texas, LSU at home, Ole Miss home, and at Florida State. I don't see a whole bunch of wins there, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to tell. I mean, we're projecting it based upon what we saw from the 2023 season. Edgar's right. There's got to be a lot of progression. I thought one of the things that was maybe most frustrating in listening to some of the reasoning why guys were hitting the transfer portal was that they didn't feel like they were being developed. I've talked to coaches in this league that have said that Florida has a lot more talent than probably what they're giving credit for. And so I know some of the moves that they're making and will continue to make on the coaching staff. Likely it has to do with surrounding Coach Napier with better support. You've heard rumors of an offensive coordinator that's set to be hired here before too long. I do think there still needs to be some coaching adjustments and try to find some guys that are a nice complement to Coach Napier's coaching style that can bring a little bit more fire. And I think they certainly have to bring more attention to detail in the in-game coaching than what we've seen. But the development is something that Edgar hit on that I think is a very key, important part to what we're talking about when we get through that 2024 schedule next year.
All right, you said the coach was supposed to have contact. Are you talking about Corn?
Yeah.
You believe that's going to happen?
I believe that's going to happen, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Your thoughts about him?
I don't know a ton about him. Obviously, he's been with a very successful offense and been the co-coordinator there. So I don't know a ton about him. I don't know how much that'll change what Florida's offensive philosophy is. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see a little more consistency. I thought that they seemed to find things that were working and then would get away from things that were working. So I don't know if that, again, goes back to having to wear 2 hats as both the head coach and the play caller. But, hopefully that if they do go that route of hiring him or another coordinator, it'll give him, Coach Napier, a little bit better opportunity to watch things from a higher level perspective.
Chris, it was criminal that Pearsall didn't get his yardage he needed for 1,000. That's too bad. I know coaches get lost and they want to win the game first and all that. Here's a guy who gave everything he had all year long. Sometimes play callers forget people, and they didn't sometimes go to their guys enough. Sometimes they didn't throw the ball to the best receivers.
Yeah,
I know they think about the plays, and not necessarily who catches the ball, but it seems like a guy like that you just go to until they stop him. Seems to me like, Chris.
You know who didn't forget about guys? Coach Spurrier. He didn't forget about guys.
Yeah.
I can tell you, he came up to me on multiple occasions and say, "Hey, we're gonna get you one here. We're gonna make sure that you catch one here." Like he knew after. I remember when I got named, second team All-American. They asked, "Man, did you know Chris was capable of putting up 17 touchdowns?" And he said, "Yeah, I was the guy calling the plays." So he knew exactly who they were getting the ball to and when.
I talked to him today, We have him on tomorrow talking about all the Heisman ceremonies. He had a good-looking jacket on, bright, loud blue, really looked good.
Hey, Blue.
He stood out, didn't he? Yeah. And we talked a little bit about. He talked to some guys about how much money they were getting. He was a reporter up there, but no, he's just the best. I'm sorry, I'll always think he was, and you played for him, you would know. And I think what we're talking about here now is some kind of momentum. What can we hang our hats on as Gator fans now and going forward? It's hard to find good news. Edgar looks for it a lot, but sometimes it's not there. Can you tell me first, Chris, and then Edgar, tell me what so far, I know it's early, the Gator fans can hang their hat on about this 2024 season?
Well, first and foremost, getting Graham Mertz back. I thought that was a huge statement about his commitment to this program, what it means to him to be a Gator, and more importantly, what he thinks of this coaching staff. I think it's a great bridge to the next quarterback, who we all assume is going to be DJ Lagway. I think that's the biggest determining factor of providing any sort of hope for Florida in the offseason, that they can hold on to him for another week, hold on to this recruiting class that they have, and try to find something that fans can look more positively on going forward than what they just went through in that 5-game losing skid to end the season.
On another positive note, I'll let Edgar go from there. Their young players did well. They have 4 Edgar on the all-conference team and 1 on the All-American freshman All-American team. They've got some pretty good young players, just not enough of them, Edgar.
And they're going to get some more next week. I mean, that's the first key, is getting as many of these guys in this current 5th-ranked class in the door. And it might drop a bit in the rankings. I feel like they need to stay in the top 10, just for fan optics and enthusiasm as much as anything. Willie Korn certainly has been the name. This year, Liberty's ranked 5th in the nation in scoring offense, 40.8. Coastal Carolina in 2021, 40.9. 2022, 30, and that was 5th. And then 18th in 2020, I believe, averaging 37.2. So he's put some pretty good numbers up, certainly a group of 5, but still, and he's 34 years old. So young, has some background with Billy, I believe. Or does he? Maybe he doesn't. I think I'm wrong there. Sorry. But anyway, he's a guy who you get excited about if they hire him. I think fans, they're always going to be, critics, questions, skeptics, and we'll be skeptical and ourselves. But he seems like a guy with some promise, and I think that would excite fans. As for Mertz, the point's been made by multiple people now at this point. If you look at 3 of the Heisman finalists were transfer quarterbacks, right? Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Michael Penix. Year 2 was this year for them, all 3. Graham Mertz, I'm not saying he's going to be a Heisman finalist, but he'll be in year 2 in a system next year, and there could be some benefit to that too.
I would say, don't you think, Edgar, that he was maybe the most impactful transfer portal guy of the SEC this year?
Yeah,
thinking about the rest of the folks in this conference, I don't know that anybody had as big a splash as what he did coming in. And that was after being overlooked by so many people as maybe a guy that would have been overhyped coming out of high school in his time at Wisconsin.
Ooh, I don't know the lay of the land completely in the league, but certainly on the Gators. The Gators didn't do great in the portal this past cycle. I think Cam Jackson still has some upside we haven't seen. I don't know. He didn't seem quite as in shape as he maybe could have been. And Mizuka, I think, had a shoulder injury arrived with. Maybe they didn't know about. Damian George certainly was somewhat disappointing, but he might be more of a guard. He might be more of a guard than tackle. They need to get some tackles. I don't know that they have many. And but yeah, I mean, Mertz was great. I mean, he was one of the MVPs of the team, if not the MVP, and provided leadership, toughness, made plays. I think that he can do more. I think a better line will serve him well, a little bit better run game, a little more consistent run game, better offensive line play. I'm really, I keep saying, I said his name earlier. I'm really excited to see what Eugene Wilson develops into.
Yeah, of course, Mertz went out on his shield way he ended the season, and he became a hero up there, Chris, with the people. And tough kid who gave everything, and I think was a better player than we realized. A good completion percentage. I'd like to see him throw it downfield a little bit more, but maybe they didn't have those plays, or I don't know why they didn't. So
He said himself that that's one of his big focal points. When we saw him last week, he was like, "I got to get the ball down the field."
Right. All right. Here's a couple stories I want you guys to comment on, if you will. I don't know this guy. You guys probably do. There's somebody to Pearl every day. Here we go. Malik Murphy told ESPN he's not going to be with the Longhorns in the college football playoffs. Now, we've heard guys opting out, but it's the first I've heard of a guy opting out whose team is in the playoffs. He would have preferred to stay through the season, but the timing didn't allow it. And Murphy told ESPN, it's nothing against Texas at all. I'm doing this purely for me and my future. In my eyes, I'll always be a Longhorn and part of this great game. I'm sorry, no, you're not. You quit the team, right?
Yeah, I have a hard time with it. I have a hard time with all the Gator folks that were putting their name into the portal last week and calling themselves Gators for lives. You don't get to claim that when you leave your team. And the idea that you guys are my brothers and family and will always be family like that. I hope that's not the way you treat your brothers and your family. I'm very passionate about, as you guys know, not only about the University of Florida, but about what it means to be a teammate and what that commitment is supposed to bring in terms of action. So the idea that you're going to go out and post that you're a Gator for life, and one of those guys very well may end up playing for the Georgia Bulldogs against Florida. I just have a hard time with the idea that you get to claim that title, man.
As a player, it's kind of an oath of brotherhood, isn't it?
No question, yeah. I mean, those are dudes you go to war with, and I know it's kind of an overused analogy, but the amount of time, effort, the energy, the blood, sweat, and tears, all of that stuff that you put in with one another is supposed to bond you much greater than what it seems to bond a lot of these guys. And everybody, just what Malik Murphy said, this is a decision based upon, for me, solely. Like that idea of me means far too much now than it used to.
There is a me in team, but no, there's no I. So Edgar, your thoughts about that? People saying I'm a Gator for life, but I'm going to go to the portal and get another job. How do you feel about that?
Well, I saw Chris tweeted something about it that was passionate, and then Allie Peak, your girl on here, had a great tweet about that too. And they weren't the only ones, but I totally get it. And it's going to get worse. I mean, this NCAA legislation or whatever it is today, or they're allowing 2-time transfers now. I mean, this is turning into, Chris played professionally for a number of years, 1-year contracts no contracts, or what is it? 1-year contracts and annual free agency. That's what it's become. And this kid, I mean, he's behind Quinn Ewers and Archie Manning. I get it. If you're like, hey, I don't have an opportunity here I thought I was going to have, I'm going to go seek that elsewhere. Why can't you say that?
But you can't be a Longhorn. You can't be a Longhorn.
He was the backup quarterback that started 4 or 5 games for them this year when Ewers went down. So you're only one snap away from playing for a college football playoff semifinal game or national championship potentially. I don't know if he got benched behind Arch Manning. He certainly wasn't there earlier, but I just couldn't imagine leaving your team in the midst of a college football playoff opportunity.
Yeah, and what if you get a Colt McCoy? Because the last chance the Longhorns had this big, Colt McCoy got hurt right in the first play or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, what if Ewers gets dinged on the first play of the game and Arch Manning suddenly to the rescue? I don't think he's ready. He hadn't played.
Yeah.
Yeah, one note about Allie Peak Wilbur. Hadley, her daughter, had surgery tonight, wishing her well. She said it's nothing major. That's why she's not on the show tonight. So get well, Hadley, and get back here soon. So thanks, Allie. All the best. You and your family. One more, and then we got David Moulton waiting in the wings. Get him to weigh on this as well. So, sorry about that, guys.
No problem.
The deal is that this Herb Street is taking on a lot of water with his comments on FSU, as you know. And he tweeted today. Obviously, he's gotten heat from FSU fans. We'll get David Moulton's comments on this too. So he tweeted out. I thought I turned it off. Sorry. Here's what he said. I'll get your reaction to it. He says, because Alabama is better, he says. He says, period. So is Texas, so is Michigan, so is Washington, so is Oregon, so is Georgia. He said, I watch 10 to 15 games a week live from September and early this December. I think I'm allowed to have an opinion who I think is better. If FSU doesn't like this, the best four tell the conference commissioners to change the protocol to most deserving. Until then, and I and everyone else is certainly allowed to give their opinion. It won't be a problem next year, Edgar, because I have 12. But your comments for quick, Chris, I'll let you go. I know you got to get out of here, and then I'll go to Edgar.
I think it's interesting what fans' takes are. I can't tell you how many times I get off TV on Saturday nights, and I still hear it all the time about how I hate Alabama. And you pick against a team, and all of a sudden you got a grudge against that team. I agree with Herb Street. Alabama is a better team than Florida State with Jordan Travis, without Jordan Travis, but certainly take him out of the lineup. And there's no real comparison. Everybody saw for themselves what that Florida State offense looked like without Jordan Travis against Florida, and then in the ACC championship game. I don't know how FSU fans can argue anything different. Do I think the players got screwed? Yeah, I do. It's unfortunate. You went 13-0. You win an ACC championship. Unfortunately, you lose your quarterback, and you're not one of the best teams in the country. Are you one of the most deserving? Yeah, you ran your schedule without losing, but that's not what the committee's tasked with. It's finding the four best teams, and certainly without Jordan Travis, they are not one of the best four.
All right, Chris, during SEC morning. By the way, I love that show now, and please, will the Gators beat LSU so you don't have to wear one of those goofy outfits again next year? I'm tired of seeing you in those.
It's not looking great, but we do get them at home this year, so maybe
it helps. Yeah. Great stuff. I enjoyed the program. Thank you, Chris, for being on. Appreciate it. All right, stand by. We're going to bring David Moulton in here with us. Edgar, hope you can stay a minute or so.
I'm still.
All right, good. Let's say good evening. Oh, he caught him in the act of drinking on the job, too. There he is. Good evening, David. How are you doing?
Buddy, Edgar, how is everyone?
Dave. Fine, thank you.
Evening to you there, big guy. Well, I read this out earlier, and I'm waiting for Edgar's response, and I'll get your response. Herb Street is in it with FSU, as you know. I'm sure you talked about it on your show. He says, regarding why he said FSU didn't belong, I read it again. Because Alabama's better, period. So is Texas, so is Michigan, so is Washington, so is Oregon, so is Georgia. I watch 10, 15 games a week live from September to December. I'm allowed to have an opinion who I think is better. If FSU doesn't like it, the best four tell the conference commissioners to change the protocol to most deserving. Until then, everyone else is certainly allowed to give an opinion and subjective. All right, Edgar, your thoughts.
I see Chris's side to it and Herb Street's. I wonder why the committee put them fifth, because that just, that was almost like a courtesy thing, when really, if you think that they're that neutered without Travis, which you would assume they are, they'd probably be behind Georgia too, at the very least, probably Ohio State even, Oregon. So I don't know. But I'll say this, they're 13-0. Their defense is fantastic. 25 tackles for loss the last two games, including one here. And maybe not against the playoff caliber opponents they would face, but that defense has something. And they hadn't lost. Who's to say that they can't scratch together something with that defense? Rodemaker was going to play. You're judging them with this quarterback who hadn't played at all. And then, like people pointed out, I'm not the first to point this out. If you look a week earlier when they beat Florida at the Swamp, Alabama needed a miracle to beat Auburn. So if you judge it on that weekend when Rodemaker was playing, was Alabama that much more formidable? I don't know. Ohio State was probably the better team of all of them that day. I mean, maybe Georgia, but the point is, it's a tough decision. It's hard to leave a 13-0 team out there with a great defense. But you couldn't, once Alabama beat Georgia, you couldn't leave Texas out. And you had to kind of bring Alabama in because are you going to relieve the SEC out of a playoff?
Okay. David?
Well, if we're going to revisit this, the mistake the committee made is they should not have kept Florida State fourth after they beat Florida. If they thought they were so much less because they didn't have their starting quarterback, then they should have diminished them after they beat the Gators. And as Edgar pointed out, yeah, they looked worse against Louisville. A, Louisville's a better team than Florida, but also B, they played their third string quarterback who was not going to be their quarterback the next time they played. So listen, Florida State got screwed, royally screwed. If we switched the conferences and the teams, it would not have happened in reverse. Okay, the committee's a joke. As for Kirk Herbstreit is the same guy who 17 years ago pounded the table that the Gators did not belong in the national championship.
Ohio State rematch, you're right. Yeah.
Pounded the table, said the exact same argument. I know football better than you. I watch more football than you. Michigan is the far better team than Florida. Michigan deserves a rematch. Florida has no business being in this game. He got so angry when Florida was put in instead of Michigan, he walked off the set for a segment. Okay? Same guy 17 years later. I'm sorry. Kirk Herbstreit is a whiny blank. Okay? Can't take the heat. Suck it up, big boy. Suck it up.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And it was Gary Danielson who basically, his argument.
Hysterical, by the way. Kirk Herbstreit, who pounded the table for 10 years against the SEC, and Gary Danielson, who pounded the table consistently for the SEC, and every SEC fan thinks Gary Danielson hates their team, and yet they love Kirk Herbstreit. Yeah, Kirk's in. By the way, it's not just Florida State people that are angry with Kirk. Of course they're going to be angry with Kirk. First off, why Kirk can't ignore them, I don't understand. I mean, seriously. I mean, come on, buddy. You're a columnist. Edgar, you're a columnist. I'm a columnist. I mean, at some point, you learn how to deal with the people who say you suck. You do. You just learn how to deal with it at some point. He clearly has not learned how to deal with that, number one. Number two, it's the rest of the country that thinks Florida State got screwed. They've watched sports their whole life. All right? They know Florida, in every other, Florida State goes. Okay, this goes against everything that we've ever seen. Okay, trust me, the rest of the country is like, wait a minute, you don't keep a 13-0 Power 5 conference champion out. All right, it was a perfect storm year. All right, it was. And as Edgar pointed out, hell, Alabama barely beat South Florida, Arkansas, and the week before needed a miracle to beat a 6-6 team. Really, we're sure they're better. Yes, on the first Saturday in December, they might have been the best team in the country that day. The week before, they might have been the 45th best team in the country. Please. It's a joke. It is. We all know why it happened. It's business. But Florida State got screwed. Okay, and Kirk Herbstreit, suck it up, big boy. You're going to be doing SEC football on a regular basis now. If you think you're getting hate now, wait till beginning next year because it's coming. Because I've seen what it's like for the last 18 years. Get ready, big boy. And by the way, from the looks of it, you can't handle it.
So I take it you disagree with him.
Well, I disagree with him whining and complaining.
No,
and also, I know better than you. First off, you don't watch 10 to 15 games live. You're busy all week preparing for your Amazon game. You don't watch any football on Friday. Saturday, you know what you do? You do game day. You get on a private plane. You fly to your game and you do your game. You know what game you watch live? The game you're doing. That's the only live football you watch all week. You may watch tape and you may talk to people, but I watch more live football a week than you do. Please.
Wow.
So, buddy, in terms of the business aspect, yesterday, Matt.
Wait. Hey, Moulton got a hand there. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he was on a nice rant. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Passion. Total viewership in college football era, excluding 2024, or the college football playoff era, excluding 2020. Okay. Number 1, Michigan, Ohio State. Number 2, Alabama, Auburn. Number 3, Alabama, LSU. Number 6, Alabama, A&M. Number 7, Alabama, Tennessee. Army, Navy's 5th. Ohio State, Penn State 4th. Michigan State, Ohio State. So Alabama drives.
Means rating points. Alabama means rating points.
No Florida State in there. I'll say that I didn't realize the Michigan thing from 2006. I covered that game. It was the last game I covered with the Gators for 5 seasons. I left for a while to go to South Florida. Now, I remember they ran back the opening kick with Ted Ginn and got a Liz Frank when Roy Small jumped in his back and all that. But, man, he had 82 yards, Troy Smith. They sacked him like 8 times. They were so overmatched. So here's my thing. I would love to see Florida State. I don't think that defense in 06, I think it's a little probably better than Florida State's right now. But that Florida State defense right now is playing at a high level. Against Michigan, with the speed Florida State has on defense, the penetration Fisk gets, I think I'd like to see that matchup. I'd be intrigued by that to see, is Michigan got the speed and the athleticism to compete with that defense? I don't know if it does. We'll never know.
Well, they're going to have all they can handle in Georgia, for sure. All right, guys, I'm going to do this.
They're getting Alabama. But
Alabama,
again,
Alabama.
Florida
Right.
State's that defense. I tell you, I don't know that Michigan would love playing that defense. Now Alabama is a very good defense too, and
I meant Georgia and Florida State. Yeah.
If the committee had simply, after the Florida State-Florida game, dropped Florida State out of the top 4 and just put them 5th, 6th, or whatever, and just said, hey, listen, they're clearly one of the 4 best teams with their quarterback, but they don't have them, and I don't know, I don't see it. They got to show us something against Louisville. And then when they didn't show us something offensively against Louisville, what they should have done, and then have them 6th or 7th even, and just say, listen, they caught a tough break. But instead now it's, hold on a second, you can lose a game but not your quarterback. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Come on. We all know, as Edgar just pointed out, it's business. The number 1 draw in the sport's Ohio State. The number 2 draw is Alabama. Ohio State wasn't in it. Okay. So ESPN had to get Alabama in it. And when they beat Georgia, they're like, I'll be damned. We can get Alabama in this thing. It was business.
Yeah,
it was business. It was business. Fox and ESPN run this sport now. Yeah. ESPN's the reason Oklahoma and Texas are in the SEC. Fox is the reason USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington are joining the Big Ten. Fox is the reason the Pac-12 is out of business. Okay, these 2 entities are running the sport. So to think that ESPN did not control who was going to be in the ESPN College Football Invitational, of course they did.
Yeah, I think. All right, guys, I want you to look
this is in our everyday life in politics. Sorry, buddy. Both parties are bought and paid for. Why do we think in college football parties are not bought and paid for? They are.
Okay, good stuff. All right, you guys think on this for a second. Explain to me how you interpret things that happen in the portal. Edgar, from a reporter's standpoint, we're dealing mostly with rumors. I see today that apparently Rocket Sanders is going to South Carolina. It just blows my mind on how to report what's going on. And Edgar, you do this more than we do. How much of what can you believe what's on Twitter, and how do you report it? And they want to get your thoughts about impactful players and changing back and forth, how hard it is to grab a hold of that. It's like trying to catch smoke. Stand by while I do this last commercial. Back with Edgar and David after this. Jeffrey, look forward to a great 2024 and being together with you and your wife to celebrate some special occasions.
Yeah, and buddy, I want to tell our Gator fans out there that Todd Golden is the real deal. Okay. In 1 year, he's put together this really tall team that's going to out-rebound just about everybody that they play. They've got some great shooters. We got 3 or 4, guards in there that are awesome.
Yep.
And I predict that the Gators are going to be a ranked team by the end of the season, and that you wait and see. They're going to make some noise around March Madness.
Sounds exciting. You'll be right there to report from courtside. Give us the inside scoop, Jeffrey.
Yeah, and January 6th is Meldon Law Day. We're playing Kentucky at the O-Dome. It's Meldon Law Day. We've got special shirts for everybody.
Giving stuff away again, like you do all over the place. You're giving stuff away. Jeffrey Meldon is always giving stuff away. Meldon Law, they won't back down, so check them out. They are attorneys. He forgets to mention that sometimes. All right, so I don't know how to get my arms around this transfer portal thing. I know it's not new, but we hear rumors. Edgar, what do you do when you see something like that? How do you track it down? How do you report it? It's so massive, all this movement going around the portal. It's really hard to report. Edgar, how do you do it?
It's mind-numbing. I mean, you're following Twitter. You're talking to people about rumors, what you're hearing. I talked to a handful of people, and it's a guessing game, man. I mean, you're at the mercy of like social media feeds. Honestly, you just follow kids to your phone that you hear are on the radar, and breaking those stories is near to impossible unless you know somebody or get lucky. I mean, that's the bottom line. And there's a lot of luck and things like that involved in this business anyway, but it's even more so in this. You're often just chasing news. I mean, it comes from the school the kid's coming from typically, or, I don't know if Rocket Sanders is true or not, or I assume it is.
Who knows?
On3 is pretty on top of it, and they figured out a pretty good formula. Hayes Fawcett, he does these presentations that the kids like, and they're very snazzy and all this, and they make their announcement. And so a lot of them reach out to Hayes and are like, hey, put one of those together for me. And he's breaking news as a result. He's got a little cottage industry going there. So often are chasing this, to be honest. I try to be honest about the process because I'm not going to sit here. You're praising my reporting and stuff earlier, which I appreciate, but it's a crapshoot, man, especially this kind of stuff. I mean, none of us are prepared for it.
David and I get it third and fourth hand. David, how do you deal with it?
I wait till it's over, and I read. I do. It's like catching a knuckleballer. I just wait until it's done rolling at the backstop and I pick it up. I wait until we're done with early signing period, and then I sit down and I try to see, okay, what's all happened over the last 3 weeks. It's very difficult for me anyway, with everything I've got going on day to day, to stay up with it. I will say this, though, if I'm Florida, how much money we got. The whole Oklahoma offensive line has hit the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, well, just bring them in then. No, seriously, what's it take, guys? What do you need? No,
Yeah.
what do you, I mean, this is what it takes. Okay. If they're leaving for whatever reason, well, what's it cost? I mean,
that's
seriously.
how some coaches are putting it. I know Urban told me about talking to a basketball coach. I know who it was, a big time basketball program. He says, no, I like it. I need a small forward. I go out and say how much. He tells me, and either we can hire him or get him or not. Game over. No recruiting. Basically, here, don't give me a check or don't give me a check. So there's that, I guess. We don't like to think it's that purely mercenary, but that's part of it. All right, so now on the subject of the transfer portal, I think Edgar said earlier, I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, inmate, that Florida was a little slow to move on the transfer portal early, and it cost Billy a little bit. Part of that was not his fault. Part of that was the school's fault. They weren't taking it serious either. NIL stuff, yeah. NIL and portal. He didn't get that much out of the portal.
NIL it goes hand in hand. I don't know that the view of NIL at Florida was pay for play, which it's become, because that isn't what it was supposed to be. It was more like, oh, Anthony Richardson's going to be the one guy who gets a car, maybe another player or two. Everyone's driving Range Rovers and 50,000 Teslas and Mustangs and stuff now. Anthony Richardson's Dodge Charger would have been a jalopy in the parking lot now. And they weren't anticipating that, but they weren't alone. I'm not going to sit here and just say Florida, but here's my thing, buddy. Florida should not be behind. Florida should be out in front, or at least drafting off the teams a little bit ahead. And I don't think that was even the case early on with the NIL.
Yeah.
But you were saying that's a factor. It's the factor. And where Florida sits with NIL and the money available, I don't hear great things, but I don't know. I don't want to rumor monger. I don't know that Florida has the funds of some of these schools. I'll tell you who's the Texas A&M of this cycle is Auburn. Look what Auburn's been doing, flipping recruits, and they are really. But
Spending.
look, Hugh Freeze had an apparatus in place 10 years ago. Ole Miss, it worked pretty effectively. Some of these guys are seasoned veterans in this world, and now they can do it out in the open.
Exactly.
And this is where, quite frankly, this is where a lot of people that I know just look at Napier and go, "Yeah, I just don't know if he's SEC."
They go, Sunbelt Belly. Sunbelt Belly, man.
But this is why. But I mean, buddy, I'm sorry. This is the SEC.
I'm not apologizing. You don't have to apologize to me.
No. But I mean, look at what Auburn went 6-6. So Edgar, what are they doing? They're going out and they're getting guys. Why? Because they went 6-6. And you do that one or two more times, you're not the coach anymore. Okay. Well, Billy's just gone 6-7 and 5-7. I mean, and next year's schedule could be the toughest schedule anybody's ever played. I mean, he needs 30 dudes to walk in the door here. Okay, I'm not kidding when I say go bring in the whole Oklahoma offensive line. Every single one of those guys is better than what you have. Go get them. We're playing big-time football here. Come on now.
I know, but can they? What's the funding?
And that's the problem.
I think is doing okay by all accounts, but exceptionally is where they need to be.
This is what the word is on the street, okay, from people I've heard. I'm not that well connected. I did hear this from multiple sources. The big money guys are saying, we've got to see something before we write any more checks.
Exactly.
And that's bad because your NIL money dries up in a hurry, and now all of a sudden we have another Machado deal in our hands, whatever.
If I was in a room with those guys, I would say, listen, I get that you don't believe in Napier, so you want to hold on to your money. I get it. Here's the problem. The players that we're bringing in, you're not then going to have them for the coach that you want in 2025. See, we need to bring these guys in. Trust me, I would look right at them and go, listen, with the schedule that we have, we're not going to save Billy Napier, but we need these guys in the program for the next guy. Okay, so get out your checkbook. Let's go. That's what I would literally be saying. I'm like, listen, we're not going to be able to save Billy Napier. The schedule's too, his boss has screwed. I mean, honestly, Scott Strickland has screwed his guy.
He may be gone. He may be gone first.
Well,
Strickland may be gone before Billy.
The schedule's too hard. It just is. It's brutal. It's getting harder, not easier. It's a joke. Okay. I mean, look at the schedule Michigan and Georgia had this year, for goodness sakes. I mean, and look at the schedule Florida's had now 2-3 years in a row. It's a joke. Okay. And that's what I would say to the money people. I'm like, listen, don't do this for Billy Napier. Do this for you and your program. Okay. So that the guy who comes in 2025 has the players that he needs. Come on, let's go. We need players. No matter who the coach is, we need players. Let's go.
The thought that Florida could have 3 consecutive losing seasons, or 4, right? Actually,
4. It would be 4. Mullen
4, yeah. Could have 4 is just mind-boggling. This is University of Florida. Think about that.
Yeah. No, we're all old enough to remember, this is when USC before Pete Carroll, when we all wondered, what the heck? This is what's happened to Nebraska, which we did. This is, to some extent, Miami's mediocrity for a generation now. I mean, we did not think this stuff was possible. We didn't. Hell, even Oklahoma, went through a period before Stoops, I mean, it can happen. It can happen a lot faster than you think. And with the elements that are at work now, it can probably happen faster than ever before.
That's right. Like free agency changed baseball. Well, we're going to see that now. It can happen in a hurry. And I remember, Edgar, you might remember this. I think it's 4 years ago. Was that the first year they were in Atlanta for the SEC Media Days? Anyway, I remember, or maybe it was national. I remember that Kirby Smart had to leave to go to a meeting of the captains of industry in Atlanta to spend the day. I thought, that's an interesting concept. Wonder why he's doing that. Well, now we know. He saw NIL coming. He saw he needed funding. He went right there to Atlanta where there were billions of dollars available, and he started recruiting money people. and look where he is today.
Well, it wasn't.
Yeah,
he didn't leave because he saw NIL coming. He left because they were buying players and he needed the money then. Now we call it NIL. I mean, come on, buddy. I mean,
Now
we all
it's
know there are
legal.
certain programs that have had cash in brown paper bags.
Whatever
and
you
cash
want to call it. I mean,
exactly.
the fact
I mean,
is,
you
he
can call
understood.
it NIL, but it was pay for play, and they've been doing it for a long time.
Of course they have.
Well, NIL stands for now it's legal. That's the joke, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
bottom line is there are headwinds everywhere Billy turns right now. Tonight, more arrived with the schedule. The portal's provided some. Next week's recruiting class, if some of these guys bail, that's more. And they're legion. And I don't know what the path out of this is. I don't know what kind of vote of confidence you can give them if you're Ben Sass to him and Strickland, whether you tell these guys behind closed doors you're getting time. Can they afford 25 plus next year? I mean, really, to get rid of Billy then? Or do you just say...
Edgar, I've been advocating for a while. If I'm Strickland, I would have done this maybe after the Georgia game. I would have said, guys, okay, you have to be in for a minimum of 2 years. We committed to a process that was the slow and steady wins the race process. We're not going to break through till 2025 at the earliest. Okay, so if you got to get in, and we're committed to this, and you look right into the camera and you say, listen, if by 2025 we don't have the program that you want, I'm going to be gone, he's going to be gone, you can bring in whoever you want. Okay, but we got to be all in. We have to be committed to make this work. Billy and I are committed. You guys aren't. Get committed.
That's what I'm saying. And I think if you're Ben Sass, that could potentially be the conversation that keeps this thing rolling, or gives it at least. How can you have a guy, two people really, Scott Strickland and Billy Napier, operating at their peak efficiency and making progress when they're like got all this noise and all this pressure? Who can function in that world, that stressful kind of environment, and perform their best? I think, I mean, it's pie in the sky. It's a utopian concept here that you just give this guy 2 years. I'm not impressed with what I've seen on many levels. The game day operation is my biggest concern. There are just too many errors that are repeated, and timeouts, ill-timed play calls, just the list goes on. But he came in with the plan. He was hired for a plan. He says he's in the middle of this plan. If it was as bad as you think when Dan Mullen left, how can you just pull the plug on it after, 3 years or 2 years or whatever it is? Yeah. But I'll say this, and I'll end on this. Year two, I said this on your show, I think before, Zook, #1 recruiting class, Urban national title, Muschamp 11 wins, McElwain SEC title game appearance and a 27-point bowl win, Dan Mullen 11 wins, including Orange Bowl. And you come out of this year 5-7, no momentum. It's the worst it's been in a long time here.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. Let's see how bad it's going to be. Real quick, we're going to run through the schedule, W or L, all the way through. Yeah, I know, but it's way too early.
You have to admit it.
Way too early.
Because like A&M just lost a
I get
five-star
it.
defensive
I don't care.
lineman. I mean, we don't know what these rosters.
We don't have to know. We're
I
guessing
don't know
anyway.
who's on the team, buddy.
I don't care. I want you to know today what it is.
All right.
Miami loss. You guys, what do you want to do? L or W?
I'll give him a W at home. I don't know who the Miami.
You don't have to. You don't have to know.
I'm gonna give them a win at home.
Okay. All right. 2-1 wins, which was a W. Samford, we all give them W's on that, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So there's 2 wins. Texas A&M, I'm giving them an L.
It's at home. I'll give them a W.
Yeah. Okay.
I got them 3-0.
Can I see this team starting 3-0? It's hard to see, but I'm going to give it to them.
Okay, so that's you guys got them going 3-0 right there. Okay.
First year coach with a lot of questions there too.
All right. I'm not arguing. I'm just saying. At Mississippi State, I'll give them a W there.
W.
Look, I'll give them a loss. They're not good on the road.
You got 2 W's, so we got them 4-0, guys. There's a bye.
I got them 3-1.
Well, but we got them together collectively in our consensus.
Okay.
It's 4-0. And then bye, then UCF, I give them a W.
I mean, look, if I'm picking the Gators to go 5-0, I'm going back on one of those. They're losing. I'm not
Edgar, we're going game by game. Let your conscience be your guide, whatever, okay?
It might be Miami. I can't see a 5-0 start for this team.
Oh, you can't go back now? You said it already. UCF, W or L?
Losing to UCF.
All right. Well, that makes them 5-0, right, to consensus. Doesn't matter what David says, all right? All right, at Tennessee, I give them an L.
L.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we got, 4-1? Kentucky. Kentucky, I'm going to give them a W there.
It's in the swamp?
Yeah.
I got this team 6-1 going into a bye.
I'm sorry, Edgar. You play it as it lies, brother. Play it as it lies. That's all I can tell you, all right? What is it, Edgar? Kentucky.
They're beating Kentucky at home, I think.
All right, so we got them, what? Is that 5-1, David?
I think it's 6-1.
6-1. Now we get a bye. They're going to go into the bye at 6-1.
And then they're not going to win another game.
They're not going to another game. But think about that. Going into the bye 6-1. All right, at Georgia, that's a loss. Right? Anybody can disagree? At Texas, that's a loss.
Yes.
How about LSU, guys? And the swamp.
That's a loss.
Brian Kelly's just Brian Kelly.
All right. Well, that's a loss. There's 2. Ole Miss. I'm going to give them a W against Ole Miss and the swamp.
Lane is such a better coach than
Okay.
Billy Napier,
All right.
honestly.
Edgar,
he could go in there as a 10-point dog and win that game.
Edgar?
I'll give him a win in that game. I think
that gives him a W.
One win in November.
That gives them what? That makes them
7-4.
7-4? All right.
Yeah. So the consensus schedule is 7-5.
Okay. And at Florida State, we were L there, Edgar. At Florida State.
I think 7-5 is reasonable.
Probably be good. It was 7-5.
Probably it's the ceiling. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's 6, 7, 5.
I'm kind of amazed at that, guys, aren't you? That we gave them a 7-5. I know it's way too early, but I thought it'd be 6-6 or worse. So it is one game away. Anyway, that's a look at it. Hey, guys, great stuff tonight, both of you. Edgar, great job. Thank you for all the work you do out there on the beat. David, always a pleasure to have you back. And we wish Allie's daughter, Hadley, best tonight after her minor surgery. So she'll be back next week with David on Sweet and Sour. And Edgar, we read you in the Orlando Sentinel, man. And see you on Shane's show. He's all over the place. Good stuff, Edgar. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
See you, David.
Take care, David. Edgar, buddy.
Thanks, Edgar. Good night, guys. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
2 of the best right there. David Moulton and Edgar Thompson. All right. Thanks, folks, for watching. I'm going to tell you about my friends at Renstar Medical Research. A bunch of good people doing good things always in our community as members of our community and stewards, good stewards they are. And then, of course, in terms of our health, they're looking out for our health right here in our district. And they have a high-quality, patient-centered research facility brings cutting-edge clinical research trials to Ocala in areas like Alzheimer's, dementia, psoriasis, osteoarthritis, migraines, fibromyalgia, and many other things that conditions that affect us right here in our communities. They want to do some research and find out how to have better health and find ways to treat that health. And they have these clinical research trials every month at least or so. And they want to get information they can pass along to the major people in the business, biomedical and pharmaceutical companies throughout the medical industry. And your information can help. If you think you might qualify for some of these, they have them on all kinds of things. You can go to the renstar.net website, and you'll find out how to join. In some cases, they pay for time and travel. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Good show tonight, folks. Thank you for participation. Nice crowd tonight. It's kind of the off season, but it's never the off season here. Tomorrow night, the HBC will join me along with Ben Pastor Ben will be doing a little preaching. And, of course, Franz Beard, hopefully he's better tomorrow, been under the weather. And Lauren Meadows, all coming to you tomorrow night on the Buddy Martin Show. And Friday, it's Urban Meyer. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you tomorrow right here.